Okay, how is everybody? Welcome back to our live show, Parents Huddle, community made by parents for parents. So today we'll be discussing
about masks. Masks for, okay, not just for protection during this period, which is the COVID-19, where we are all worried about, droplets that maybe we go out, we want to protect ourselves as well as protect other people. Actually, it's really a lot of times the surgical masks are really for protecting others because it keeps us from sneezing out and so on and so forth. So today we'll be talking about masks, which are suitable masks that you can consider to use during this period of time, as well as the haze that's upcoming. I think recently there's been talk about some hotspots, isn't it?
yes, not just some, but what do you call it? Quite a few hundred actually.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so we know around this time of the year is always dry season, especially in Indonesia. So with them trying to clear area for plantations, it means basically burning down the forest and everything. Hi, Karine. Thanks for joining us.
Can you see?
Yeah, I can
Okay,
see.
I'm
Our
really
profile
bad.
picture is very prominent. So basically, Singapore is one of the, besides Malaysia, Singapore is one of the few countries that suffer from the haze aftermath, as in like the forest burning aftermath, basically, and back in 2019, and also I think if I'm not wrong, 2015, we had really high PSI levels, and which is actually quite detrimental to people with especially breathing problems. And now with the COVID-19, we're having a double whammy, so we're like kind of sandwiched.
Yeah, we're pretty much sandwiched with two problems at one time. And for COVID-19, I think a lot of people are actually wearing surgical masks. But during haze period, you will realize that when it's really bad, most people will be looking at, oh, should I be using N95? Because this mask actually address different things. N95 actually helps to lower the they actually have what we call micron level filtration. So basically what that means is that sometimes they have air particles and so on. So with that, during his period, we're talking about air particles, and it's very important that you actually have micron level filtration in the mask to actually help you ensure that the air you're breathing in is not the one that's contaminated by the haze. All right, so that's very much different from surgical masks, isn't it, Michelle?
Of course.
Yeah, so surgical mask is really the droplets thing that as far as we know, that's why we are using it during the COVID period. Yeah, when you're out, now it's mandatory that we wear masks, and it continues to be so. We're not sure how long it's going to be. And
we're just gonna flash in case you missed the news.
Oh, it's not we say one, okay? The haze that's we are all expecting is not correct. That Michelle predicted. She's like when but there's some news about it. So our admin will show something that comes up from the news.
So yeah, we were pretty alerted when we saw the news released by CNN as well. There's been several articles actually stating that this may be a foreseeable hazard that we'll be facing in a couple of months. Their dry season apparently won't end until about October or so.
Oh wow, that's a long time.
It's a long period.
So when are we expecting haze to pop up? Not so sure, isn't it?
It really depends on the winds and whether there's more rain during this dry season than normal. So if there is not much rain, then we can expect to have
I hope the wind doesn't come quickly, but it's tough enough now. Us trying to manage this situation, going with masks out all the time. But now we have one more worry: is the mask you are using able to protect you during the haze period? All right. So we are not. I know fairly enough about masks, but I'm not the expert in masks and filtration. So today we are going to invite somebody very special to us, because every time there are some things that are a little bit technical and we don't understand. We kind of like ask, hi. Expert, come here.
Safety specialist,
Yeah.
expert.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we continue, remember to like, share, and if you can, comment or shoot us any questions below. Please like and share this video so that we can build our Parents Huddle community bigger every day, okay? So we can share more information with you guys, and you guys can, in vice versa, share with your friends as well.
We try to share like the most updated information that we have, and you know, at the moment, if you have anything, like for example now it's COVID, so a lot of times we may some of the topics may be more related to that. So anytime that you feel that there's something coming up that for the family safety, or as young parents you want to bring up, please comment, send us private messages, and then we try to address them during our Parents Huddle show. It's really more for you and for us to learn together. So without further ado, I think we're ready to invite
our expert and specialist.
I wanted to say guest, but kind of he works here as well. So it's kind of he's a safety specialist. Can we have Johnny join us on set? We will and talk to us about mask filtration. Welcome, Johnny.
So what questions do you have?
Do you want to share with us more about the upcoming Haze situation?
Okay. So, I mean, for the last few months, we have been, a lot of people are wearing masks. So, but the whole purpose of it is mainly to keep us safe from COVID. And if you were to understand more how the mask plays a role in COVID, it's more to prevent the droplets from coming out from us, reaching other people, and at the same time do likewise when droplets coming to us. But the emphasis is that the virus actually travels through droplets, and at the moment we are not dealing with something that is totally airborne that travels with wind yet. So that makes the requirement of the mask a little bit different, say compared to a haze situation. The haze situation, we're talking about airborne particles, very, very small micron level particles that is so light they actually literally fly with the wind, which is why Indonesia has fire, and then the particles can travel all the way from there to Singapore and literally surrounds you. There's nowhere to run from it. The only way that we can try to prevent this is to literally filter the air that we are breathing through. So you realize that to filter air that we are breathing is a little bit different from just trying to prevent particles reaching your face, because you have to make sure a few things before you can actually make sure that a few more things comes into the mask, and not all masks are designed for that purpose.
Okay, I hope you can hear me. You can see I'm wearing a mask that's actually useful for protection. I use this mask a lot when there was a haze situation, like maybe about 6-7 years ago. And breathability during the haze period is something that I think we will all be looking at, even more so than during the masks that are really people are wearing during COVID-19. Am I right to say so?
Yes. So when the haze first came out, I think the recommended mask that people were wearing was, we heard about N95. Literally, it filters at least 95%, in most cases 99.99% of submicron level particles. They look something like this. So essentially, they have a basically the material itself is what makes it so unique. At the same time, the mask is also designed to seal it around your face, meaning that you should not allow air to go in from the side. You're supposed to breathe through the material. That what makes it effective. So two things have to come in if you're going to protect yourself against haze. You have to prevent leakages, and you also have to make sure that you breathe through the material that filters up to that level. So these two things is a little bit different from the COVID situation that we're looking at here. So we can't exactly just take a layer of cotton or a few layers of cotton, breathe through it, and expect the same result, because they are not designed for that purpose. And a lot of people have the question that, what about surgical masks? they have a lot of tests on surgical masks, particularly for COVID-19. Some say, you have the water test and everything. But very sad to say, the surgical mask is not designed for this purpose. It is designed with a water resistance, a waterproof layer, and then with some filtration ability. But I can ask you to do a very simple experiment. If you have a N95 or even you have a cloth mask, you can do a very simple experiment. We mentioned about you have to breathe air that's filtered through the material. Just take the surgical mask, put it over your nostrils, seal it, and you try to breathe.
Is this a 3-ply?
This is a typical 3-ply surgical mask, a very simple one that you can get in for it's basically very cheap, right? But you put it to your nostrils and try to breathe through it. But make sure you seal it. And then you take N95 and do the same thing. Okay? You'll be surprised because you will find that, hey, how come I can breathe better in the N95 material, which is supposed to filter at a lower level, much lower level than surgical mask? And that basically explains to you why, because this material is designed to filter. This material is not designed to filter. And you realize if I'm wearing the surgical mask and yet I can breathe fairly easily, where's the air coming from? So it gives you the idea that if you are wearing a surgical mask and if you put the material over your nostrils, you can't breathe. And when you're wearing it, you can breathe easily. The air is coming from the edges. So imagine now you are in a haze situation, that you know that the particles are all in the air flying. They are all going in and you're all breathing it through. You're not filtering at all, which is why it doesn't work. It may be able to block droplets, somebody, achoo, yes, it blocks that. But it won't be able to block air going in, directly in. So that's the reason why this won't filter so well. Whereas for the N95, you actually can breathe better in it if it's sealed properly. And the same thing, there are cloth masks around. Like I say, first of all, we have to figure out, can the material filter up to that micron level? If the material can filter up to that micron level, and is it able to seal properly, and would I actually be breathing through the material rather than just the leak air that's coming in from the edges? So, like for example, the Breathe Healthy mask is something which has been tried and tested through many haze situations, and a lot of customers have actually tried, and they know that it works, right? You put on the mask and suddenly the headache is gone, and you know that you're breathing less of the particles. So if you put this material over the nose, you will realize that you actually breathe through, it's almost close to breathing through cotton, yet this material is designed to filter micron level. So it actually has high filtration level, yet easy to breathe through. And because of that, when you seal it properly, and this mask allows you to tighten so that you can seal the side fairly easily over your face. And because the material itself does not impede the airflow, so when you breathe, more air tends to move through the fabric rather than from the side. So this is something which is not so easily tested in the labs. You have to actually experience it yourself, but you have to understand what you're looking for. So the seal is important, and the other thing is that if the material is designed for the purpose and yet easy to breathe through, the material actually filters more air compared to a material that's difficult to filter and difficult to seal. I know that's a little bit more technical, but then if you get a chance to try out the fabric on your nose, try it and so that experience it for yourself and try to understand it really better.
I think it's a very interesting point that you made actually regarding the N95. I mean, in all honest opinion, I always thought that the surgical mask may be more breathable than N95. So it was something very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Johnny, we have a question by Kiona. She's asking, will it be safer to wear 2 layers of mask?
Well, yes and no, because if you think about it, logically speaking, if you have 2 layers of mask on you, you actually have more protection. But it also means that if you are going to use them properly, it will also reduce airflow. It will make it very difficult for you to breathe through. Like an N95, if you were to wear it properly, it's not something that's easy to manage throughout because the airflow itself is actually impeded quite a lot. But as a trade-off, you actually get a very high level of filtration there. So if you're going to wear 2 N95, you probably can't breathe. So if you're going to wear N95 and wear a surgical mask, depends on what you want the purpose for. It's not going to give you more filtration protection with a surgical mask, but you can say maybe I can keep more bacteria off my N95, which is more valuable. So I change my surgical mask more, then I keep my N95 to protect me, but I put the outside layer surgical mask so that I can change that layer more often to keep the bacterial level to build up less. That is, like I say, it serves that purpose, but it may not actually give you more protection in terms of filtration.
Oh, okay. What if, let's say, somebody says, I'm going to wear N95 and a surgical mask, like just now you say, you change more often the surgical mask. Does it mean that then the N95 can use for long? Because I understand that N95 is supposed to be also disposable. Actually, a lot of people don't know that.
But I will see this way. I mean, to be practical, I would say maybe the appropriate analogy is like disposable underwear. If you have, you go traveling, you bring limited number of pants, but you bring a lot of disposable underwear, right? So in that way, if you change your underwear more often, the chances of your pants getting dirty will probably reduce. Not as the ideal situation, but in situations like you really have maybe that few N95 left. Then maybe
and you have excess.
Like you have one pair of pants, and then you have a lot of disposables. So it's that kind of a situation, like I say. But like I say, focus doesn't give you more protection, but you realize that using something like this usually is just to make use of the disposability of the mask to improve hygiene. Another point about masks is that a lot of people forget that there are other challenges. It's besides the viruses, besides the haze. Whenever you put, it's just like clothes. Whenever you put a mask to your face, particularly your face, because there's saliva, we eat and all that. There is very high chance of bacterial growth on fabric. No matter what material you use, the bacteria grow at enormous rate, particularly in our humid weather. You'll be surprised how fast they grow. So the thing is this, if that's the value of actually the disposable mask, which is after a while you're supposed to dispose of and use a new one, so that you don't have to worry about like tissue paper, right? So for reusable, if you're going to put it back to your face, you have to be aware that bacteria and fungus can all start growing on the material. So these are things that these are dangers that some people may not be aware of, which is why if you're using something which is not designed to be reused, then you have to be aware that you are taking additional risk in that area.
So now, thanks to Donnie's analogy, I cannot stop thinking about disposable underwear.
Sorry about that.
It's a very good analogy, actually. Something I haven't, it's very relatable because you wouldn't wear disposable underwear, right? Like so,
hygiene, right?
Yeah.
It's the same actually.
Same for masks.
It's also bodily fluids,
yes,
right?
correct.
Yeah.
So, am I right to say that? So, that sometimes when I travel in MRT, to work or wherever, I see people having 2 surgical masks. So they're just making it 1, harder for themselves to breathe, and 2, it's not any cleaner or safer actually.
Yes.
In the short,
correct.
In the summary.
So if it's 2 surgical masks, then I will struggle to find out the value of that because one surgical mask keeping the other one clean, and the surgical mask does not actually provide I don't think 2 surgical masks gives you double the protection of 1 surgical mask. And if it's against Haze, you know that surgical masks are not exactly very useful. Yeah. Like I say, you just do the breathability test as now, and you know that how much of the air that you're breathing through a surgical mask are actually air leaked from the side and not through the filtered layer. Okay.
Okay. So then you talk about filtration and so on. How about well, for example, we also talk about like the 3 different masks, like surgical, N95, and then the maybe the reusable face mask, for example. So when we talk about micron level filtration, does reusable masks necessarily mean that there's going to be micron level filtration? What's the difference between like firstly, what is micron level filtration? Why is it important during Haze period? And then also, what is the difference in the level of filtration amongst the different masks?
Everybody has an aircon here. So if you ever take out an aircon filter to check once in a while, you realize that a lot of new aircons actually have, like, the net itself filters most of those big particle dust. And sometimes the aircon actually has a small little special filter that they have in there that actually filters micron level. That takes up the fine particles. So basically, when we talk about a fabric that is micron level filtration, they are designed to actually capture the micron level, means basically one molecule size of particles. So a fabric has to be weaved and designed specially to filter micron level. Like the N95 fabric is designed for that purpose, meaning that it actually captures and keeps the material, keeps the particles in there. It doesn't reach you. And similarly, the Breathe Healthy mask, no doubt, is very breathable. The material also captures and keeps the micron level particles. So this has to go through a lab, and what they do is that they put the fabric through a particle stream. So they actually shoot latex particles at the fabric, and then on the other side they will measure how many particles get through. So these are usually a special test that's done if we're talking about N95 masks. This is different from the so-called bacteria efficiency that we talk about usually with surgical masks. Surgical mask, that one is very different. But like I said, we are more concerned. Surgical mask is the leakages. There's not so much. The fabric itself is not so much of an issue. It's usually a leakage that causes the problem. But you want the fabric itself, if you're going to breathe through it, you need to make sure the fabric itself can actually filter the micron level particles. So a normal cotton mask may be able to filter a little bit, but not much of the micron level. So please, a lot of people are confused regarding breathability and whether I can filter micron level. At some point, if I'm going to go all the way to the N95 level, chances are that I'm going to impede some breathability. I'm going to be less breathable as I try to filter more. But it does not mean that if the reverse is not true. That means if easy to breathe through means that I don't filter, because for the Breathe Healthy, they actually have a special layer that is patented and designed to be able to let air pass through easily. At the same time, they filter all the micron level particles, but not at the level N95. So it's like a little bit of a trade-off, but it's easy to breathe through yet able to filter enough. For normal cotton masks, even 3-ply, the unfortunate thing is that they are not as easy to breathe through if you compare to the Breathe Healthy, but they have not been tested for micron level filtration. And most of them will probably not be able to filter micron level filtration because they are not designed for that purpose. For micron level filtration, as I understand, most of the fabric has to be weaved in a certain way so that they are able to trap the micron level particles.
Okay. Sounds fair. Yeah. So I mean, we also talk about normal cotton mask, which basically means that the reusable face mask, right? So I mean, I see a lot normal one, which is like homemade and stuff like that. I mean, I like to craft too. But so in terms of reusable masks, there's also in the market, I see often antibacterial, and then you say that the Breathe Healthy masks are antimicrobial. Is there a difference? Because I think they are the same, but are they different? Because I heard some mention about
it depends on what, again, antimicrobial and antibacterial, there is actually a distinct difference. Antibacterial, we're talking about something that is able to prevent bacterial growth, but it's basically bacteria and germs. Antimicrobial goes a little bit more. It actually also impedes mold, fungus, besides on top of the bacteria. So, but you realize that it's basically what the material is designed for, or what is the active agent used, and has it been tested to be able to achieve that purpose. Like, if they will be technically correct, they say I'm antibacterial, you should just believe that this thing is effective against bacteria. And if it's antimicrobial, you know that, okay, this one impedes not just bacteria, but also fungus and mold growth. Because you know that a lot of times, especially in humid weather, bacteria is a problem, virus is a problem, mold is also a big problem. Mold and fungus can trigger allergies. A lot of people with nose problem and all that, it's not just bacteria, it's also mold. So you have a lot of health problem, respiratory problem, you realize that you also want to control mold growth. And so if you want, you can drill a little bit deeper, understand the product that you have to see whether they also cover the area that you need them to. And one thing very important is that a lot of people assume that I have a mask that's antibacterial, means that it makes me invincible to bacteria and all that, which you have again come back to what is the purpose of making this mask antibacterial. If you're talking about a antibacterial spray, what we do is that we spray on the surface, and the test would say it's a hard surface, I spray on this thing, I leave it for 10 minutes, it kills how much of the bacteria. That's how it's supposed to work. So when we talk about antibacterial and antimicrobial on fabric, the test that we're talking about is basically, can the bacteria actually grow on this fabric? So what I'm talking about is that if this fabric is treated for antimicrobial and this fabric is not treated for antimicrobial, I put them side by side, and then you can see that maybe after 4 hours, the bacteria and mold will be growing on this, and it doesn't grow on this. This is effective. So you realize that the purpose on fabric is a little bit different. They are trying to prevent bacteria and fungus growth with antimicrobial. It's like if you have antimicrobial socks, it prevents the socks from having bacterial growth that leads to smell, for example, or clothes that does that. But the purpose is not so much to protect your feet or to protect you per se. So air flowing through this, there is no test to say that if this fabric is antimicrobial, air filters through this fabric is going to be so-called with bacteria killed. I think there's a little bit different in terms of their purpose here. So if you look at, say, for example, the Breathe Healthy mask, the internal layer here is antibacterial, antimicrobial. So basically, the whole purpose of this design is so that if I continue to put this on my face throughout the day, I put it away, I put it on again, I can be confident that there will be minimal bacterial growth on this surface. So the next time I put on, within the day, it should be still relatively safe, meaning that I don't have bacteria growing at very, very fast rate on this mask. And by the time I put in, I may be safe from the outside, but my body is compromised by the bacteria and the mold that starts growing on my mask since the last time I put it away, because they grow at an enormous rate. Go check on Wikipedia and see how fast the bacteria grows. You can reach from 1 bacteria to 1 million in just a few hours. So wow, that is crazy rate. So especially humid weather, mold growth is as fast. So if you were to leave this around with some moisture, pretty much your own bodily fluid, and you put it away, and then you put it on again, like I say, you don't get killed by COVID-19, you get killed by your own bacteria. Fungus, bacteria, and sometimes some people actually start getting itchy nose and all that after you wear your mask for a while. You realize that the start of the day you don't get that, but slowly, close to the end of the day, you start to get this. Why? It's because it has been compromised.
Okay.
And so that is actually what I see as the most valuable value add for having a mask antibacterial, meaning that it prevents the antimicrobiome to prevent the mold and bacteria from growing where it can compromise your protection. If not, then a surgical mask that you dispose of often will probably give you the same thing. They are not meant to be reused.
You mentioned this, you change often disposable mask. Am I right to say that people shouldn't be reusing after they take it off? Because I think a lot of people want to save money, right? I mean, every day you gotta wear mask, So,
I mean, it's really.
Can we wait for the day? Because some people say, okay, N95, even N95 is disposable. Can we like reuse
They
it?
are technically not
time, so.
advisable. Like I say, it's worse when we have a very, very humid atmosphere here. So bacteria and mold growth is faster in our environment. And you can see how fast it can grow on your aircon. Can you imagine how fast it grows on your mask? And it's because of the proximity why you take it directly into your body. So if possible, don't reuse disposable masks. They're not meant to be used, which is why they are best for hospital kind of situations where people can't keep the mask clean. So basically, the moment they take off is throw, take a new one. You know, you never see a surgeon reuse gloves and reuse mask one. It's not meant to be for that, which is why disposable is designed for that environment. Whereas for the rest of us, I think the way you can keep it safe is just how you treat clothes. You know, we don't keep wearing the same clothes every day.
So what if we wear cotton mask? Does it also mean that we should bring a few? I mean, if it's not antimicrobial or some has a number of washes, then you have to kind of like, you know, it's no longer effective. Does it mean that they preferably we should? Preferably
you should,
a few,
or you can try to understand that it can happen, because some people what they do is that, you know, if possible, they change masks, or at least, you know, air the mask somewhat, and be aware of it. Because if you start to get signs, for example, your skin starts to itch, your nose starts to itch, that is a very good sign that your mask is probably already compromised. So if you know something like this happening, then do something about it.
Yeah, we're worried about pimples.
Yes,
also caused by bacteria, right?
Correct. Yeah. Because you are basically, you know, you put on the mask, you take out, you know, there's moisture, so you basically, it's like a little incubator that you, like a little incubator, you incubate all the bacteria. After a while, you put it on your face again, then it's like, you know, it's just smearing bacteria on your face. So
I think it's even more important for, I mean, pregnant moms to be, right?
Yes, I'm aware there are some disposable masks that have antibacterial property also. But I think in times like this where we are required to wear masks throughout the day, it is definitely very important for you to consider having a mask that actually has proper antibacterial, antimicrobial properties to allow you to reuse the mask throughout the day safely. Because, you know, one way is for us to keep disposing masks, but that's not exactly very doable, and then you don't want to be carrying a whole box of masks as you go. So the easier alternative might be to get a mask that actually continues to keep you safe, and you know that it works.
Okay, we have a viewer page, and she's asking, does it mean if I use disinfectant on a mask, is it good enough for us to reuse the disposable mask again?
Well, I guess that's very subjective. Technically speaking, in the short term, it might actually be able to work, but you have to be aware again what kind of disinfectant you're using. Because a lot of disinfectant, we cannot assume that the disinfectant means that it's safe to use on you. Ask yourself the question, would I be comfortable smearing that on my face first? You know, a disinfectant. Because it's not just disinfecting the mask. When you take and put it onto your face again, it's something that you're going to be breathing through and putting to your skin. So if there's residue or there's something that, you know, this thing may kill viruses, but it may kill more than just the virus. You may just kill yourself too. So there are. So read the fine prints, particularly in terms of disinfectant, because some of them actually contain a certain level of poisonous stuff that are not meant to be ingested. So those, if you're going to put it close to your nostrils, might not actually be the best choice. So if you want to do something, be sure that you can actually do that safely on you first before you put it on your mask. Okay, but yes, if you have a good solution, you can actually so-called prolong or reduce effectively, but do it safely.
Yeah, I think safety is really
Safety is
most
important, and understand, like, you know, what are your choices and all that.
I guess if you have a mask and you are comfortable with what you're using right now, it's important to be aware of the limitations. Am I right to say that?
Correct, the limitations. Yes.
Yeah, so every mask has their own limitations. When you're wearing it, just be very careful to protect yourself. You don't want to cause more problems for yourself.
Yeah.
And since we are talking about if we have to wear masks outside, whether indoors or outdoors right now, then in this situation, what would be like a mask that we can, like, you know, indoors, outdoors, and then, you know, forget about it, save money in a way? What would you recommend?
Well, for us, I think we will still find the Breathe Healthy mask probably the most recommended for a situation like this, because it's designed actually to start with as an allergy mask, meaning that it's designed for pollen, it's designed for pet vendors, it's designed for haze, and it being a premium mask allows it to also use easily for, say, the COVID situation and all this. So a mask that's able to do all that at the same time, easy to breathe through, is designed, you know, is designed for people not able to breathe. So people with lung problems and all that. So in a way, almost anybody can use it, and you can use it for long periods without so-called big discomfort or people being breathless and all that. So, and also with the antimicrobial treatment that is permanent, you don't have to worry about how many times have I washed it, because it is permanent. So it's something that you, as long as you keep it clean, I go back, I washed it, the next day I can take it out, I can use it again. You don't have to start counting. This is how many times I have used it. So from a usability point of view, this is probably the ideal mask for you to keep around and continue to use it as long as you need. And then I keep a couple of it, and then I just wash it like clothes, just wear it. And knowing the situation now with COVID, we don't know how long it's going to last. We may have haze coming. Next, what's coming, we don't know. So it might make sense to start looking at your mask as part of your wardrobe. You know, something that you plan to continue wearing unless you plan not to wear pants tomorrow.
You know, that's why I have them in different colors.
Yeah. So I think the right way to look at masks might actually be that way, something that we can continue to use, sustainable, easy for me to maintain, and I don't have to keep thinking about it so much. So to fit that bill, I think what we have at the moment, the Breathe Healthy mask probably fits the bill the best. Something that you can easily have. At the moment, there are not a lot of designs for you to fill up the wardrobe, but we hope to get more designs, the design ones in, except that because of the situation and the sort of supply, so they have pretty much stuck to solid colors at the moment. But we do see that maybe over time they will start to do the design once again.
Yeah, I think you just have to be prepared. But one question, if you mentioned about cleaning it, since it's antimicrobial, I've got people asking me once about like, if that's the case, then why do we still need to wash our mask?
Oh, okay. I think it's a good question. Why do we need to wash the mask? If you understand how the antimicrobial works for the Reusable mask, it's designed, it's using a technology called Haze, and it's invented by Corning. It's a technology that's been used for many, many years already, and usually they do it for like the hospital curtains and all. What it does is that you can imagine it's like a field of swabs. When bacteria in contact with the material, it actually punctures the bacterial cell and thereby killing it. So this prevents the bacteria from so-called staying on the fabric and reproducing. So we can stop the incubating kind of situation happening here. But you have to realize that if you have watched lots of rigs, it doesn't mean that you kill the first enemy that comes in, you are safe because there's somebody behind. So if they pile enough bodies onto the surface, they can effectively cover your swords. Meaning that at some point, the bacteria that comes down no longer comes in contact with the layer. Why? Because there's a lot of debris. So basically, a layer like this can keep you safe in a certain amount of time. A day is okay. But if you're going to keep it for a few days without washing, this thing is going to be piled with many things. Debris of the bacteria is going to be piled with dust, whatever you eat for lunch, your bodily fluids. So at some point, the layer will not be as effective as before because it's now covered with everything. So because of that, it will still be recommended for so-called masks with this kind of properties. You still need to wash them because you need to wash off all the stuff to keep this layer exposed. I hope that helps to explain.
Similarly, when we get it from the store, should we wash it first before we use it then?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, we don't know how they handle it. I mean, so it's best to see they're going to put your face, put your nostrils. This is basically like the big gates to your castle. You make sure that you wash this clean, be comfortable with it.
Yeah, and probably make sure that your detergent is something that doesn't leave any residue.
Yeah. So I think a good gauge is that if your detergent leaves a lot of smell, that may not be something you want to use on mask, because if you leave a lot of smell, that means something is left behind.
That's true for all masks, right?
Yes, because if you want it to be effective, you don't want to have too many layers covered. One thing. Second thing is that anything left behind also easily go into your body. Wearing on your body here and covering your face is different, because when you're covering your face, anything that is here goes indirect to your body. So if it's chemicals, it goes directly in. So that can cause a lot of problems. Some people with more sensitive sinuses and all that can have reaction very fast. So if you should look for something that cleans properly, at the same time don't leave too much residue on the mask.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Donnie, for this one.
I think we have just one last question to ask him. Maybe you could share with us what are the key points, having said all this about Haze and COVID. I mean, what would be the key features that you would look out? You would advise people to look out for in a mask if you're going to use one for
just to sum it up.
Okay, so if you are going to use a mask that you can use for this period, I think something to look out for. Best for it to be reusable. Why? Because we really don't know how long this thing will last. So if you are going to have something reusable, it would actually take the stress off trying to look for a mask and do not know when tomorrow you have enough masks to use So if you're going to worry not just for yourself, but also for the whole family, I think there's too much stress. There's a lot of things to worry about. I don't think the mask should be one of them. And then second thing, from a filtration point of view, look for something that is designed for that purpose. Right? Like, you know, if you want to look for, at the moment, you know that, you know, for COVID, yes, mask, a proper mask that has proper coverage would be good. And then, but for Haze, you need a little bit more. We're talking about mask that is designed specially to filter micron level, and then have proper way of sealing around the face effectively, and do a simple test to see whether is the air really going through the filter part, the fabric, rather than just going in from the side. Because going in from the side, you know that, you know, all the micron particles are going to go in, so that's not going to help too much. And then if you are going, since we're going to use it for longer period, additional plus is the antimicrobial or at least antibacterial fabric that would actually, you know, allow you to safely use and prevent the bacteria from incubating in your mask as you use throughout the day. I think that this will be a few things I'll look for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a great summary, especially for those who are joining towards the end. We hope you now know what to look for when you're looking for masks, not just for COVID-19, for basically everything, pollen, dander, and even haze. So yeah, I think
That pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
I thought when we started this year, 2020, wow, it's a nice number, it's going to be a nice year.
It's halfway year gone.
Oh yeah.
So anybody else? Yes.
Anyone has any questions that you want to ask last minute? Or I don't have any questions now here with me. Do you have any more questions that you have on your mind?
No, pretty much. I think much more knowledgeable now.
Okay, thank you very much, Donnie.
Yeah, so if the floor doesn't have any questions, you can still always comment below. We will reply you later on from our Facebook page. But if not, we will see you next week.
Yeah, just quickly, I think I remembered something. If you are getting the mask from our website, I think there is some kind of promotion right now. So 3 masks and above, you get 5% off, I think. Yeah,
and 5 masks and above, it's
10%. Yeah. So if there's no more questions,
no more questions,
then we will see you next week.
See you next week.
See you. Thank you for
Bye.
joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.